Good afternoon. My name is Koni Rashamuse. I'm from the Department of Science and Innovation. Welcome to this, what we call graveyard session, where really people's energies should be supposed to be high, but the concentration it's low. So this session that we have themed digital innovation initiatives. It has two parts. The first one will be a presentation and followed by a panel discussion. In the meantime, I'll request my panelists to be joining me on the other side. And on the other side, I have Michelle Hardin, who will give us a flavor around some of the initiatives that we are doing around Innovation Bridge Portal, just to be able to theme our discussion around what that digital portal is meant to achieve in terms of supporting innovation ecosystem activities. Michelle, may you please come forward. And on my left, my panelists, you can join that, then we'll start the panel discussion immediately after Michelle's presentation. Thank you, Michelle.
Good afternoon. I see at least there are some people coming into the room, so that's wonderful. My presentation today will really focus on digital integration to support and enable the ecosystem environment. So I have to start off with a disclaimer to say that when I do mention the ecosystem in my presentation, I'm really talking about the innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystems, specifically in South Africa. I thought it pertinent for us to just for a moment pause. Oh, there we go. Oops. Just pause and really appreciate the complexity of the ecosystem and the challenges that we sit within this ecosystem before we go into what the Innovation Bridge Portal could possibly help in supporting these challenges. So a definition that we've decided really works nicely within this context is the following: that an ecosystem is a combination of actors, assets, and relationships that together provide a supportive, enabling environment. And I think just to support this, really to dig a little bit deeper into three very important ecosystem characteristics. Because we're talking about supporting the ecosystem from a digital system or digital point of view, but we need to understand how complex it is. So first of all, ecosystem is made up of multiple actors or institutions with varying degrees of power, relationships, and resources. And this is so important because I don't think we realize that today we sit with an ecosystem where there is specific role players, resources. Tomorrow, the news might tell us that there's a big new relationship, partnership between two main ecosystem role players, and that influences and shifts the power and the resources again within the ecosystem. So it's an ever complex, dynamic ecosystem. Also, it's really clear where the lines of inclusion and exclusion lie in an ecosystem. So the who and the what that is included in the ecosystem is largely subjective. And therefore, when we talk about the innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem in South Africa, it's not that we can per se put a very strict line around this ecosystem and say, this is it. We know exactly who and what is part of this ecosystem. So it's a fluid ecosystem. And then lastly, the effectiveness of each part within the ecosystem is moderated by other parts of the ecosystem. And this speaks to the interconnectedness of the ecosystem. And really, if you have one part, one asset, one stakeholder in an ecosystem, their level of effectiveness in enabling and supporting the ecosystem will have a ripple effect on other parts and other role players within the ecosystem. So I think you can appreciate that from an ecosystem point of view, we're working here almost with an organic, very fluid, dynamic, and complex ecosystem. To further just setting the scene, I want to share a few interesting insights from research done on specifically the entrepreneurship ecosystem. This piece of research says that, in order to support your fast growth type entrepreneurship, what was found is that common factor was that government leadership contributed to building these environments and to help the growth and sustainability of entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurial ecosystems should not be seen as tangible systems, but rather as ongoing processes whereby entrepreneurs can engage with resources, knowledge, and support. And this is also very interesting, recent research where they benchmarked different startup acts and business acts, and South Africa was included in this benchmark. And where 3 of the main findings from this research or this benchmark showed, first of all, that how important it is that an ecosystem approach is key to effectively stimulating entrepreneurship. So when we talk about legislation and policies, we need to think about the ecosystem before we go into, can I say, a siloed intervention type of mode. And we need to respect how very interconnected and dynamic our ecosystem is. So really what I got from this is that there's a reason why we're here today. Government is very well placed to take a leading role from a digital inclusiveness, digital support point of view in this ecosystem. We have to consistently, because it's an ongoing process, there's never a day off, consistently provide our ecosystem with the support and information that they need. And then, very important, consideration must be given to the characteristics of the ecosystem when we start to talk about policy interventions. My next slide, with this slide, I want to bring it a little bit closer to home. So these are some of the things, at least, that we've seen and learned from our journey with the Innovation Bridge portal, and this is definitely not a complete list, but just to reflect on a few things. When we talk around investment and funding for the entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem, there is a huge lack in inclusive, high-risk, pre-seed funding grants. And this is not only for our entrepreneurs. This is when the entrepreneur or researcher and inventor is sitting with an idea, and how can we help them with grant funding to make sure that that idea is actually relevant and that the rest of the ecosystem should be spending time and money on that idea, because in the end we are working towards socioeconomic growth. Then also limited vetted pipeline. I think we hear a lot, entrepreneurs would say, I just need funding. That's all I need. Why do you need funding? Just give me funding and all will be good. But there's a lot that goes around that. So our investor community really is looking for a vetted pipeline of businesses and innovations to invest in. And that's not just about funding, and it's about creating as an ecosystem and supporting, creating a vetted pipeline that can easily be picked up and funded. From an ecosystem support organization point of view, and these are typically your mentors, coaches, intellectual property attorneys, any organization or any individual that support the ecosystem, there's a lot of fragmentation. Study done by the World Bank Group also showed this, that what the fragmentation causes is that there's not a lot of large-scale impact events around ecosystem support organizations coming together, co-creating, working together for the ecosystem. Then there's also questions around the fact that it seems that a large chunk of these ESOs are unequipped. And with our engagements with CEDA, this is something I know that CEDA specifically wants to work on and see, can they professionalize this environment? How could we start through a digital platform to even get feedback from the entrepreneurs that make use of services from our service providers, and how can we then also train these service providers to enable them really to more effectively provide their services to our entrepreneurs. Then also no visibility. I don't know where you go in South Africa to find a database of all the support services that you could possibly need for to to start your business from an idea all the way through to scaling, to invent a new product, to find what you need to find. So this has been shown in research. They're not really visible. From a policy and regulation point of view, and I'm not going to talk about this a lot because I think we have spoken about or to this today a lot. Quality of data, access to data, so many things around data that should be available to our government to inform policies and regulations that is suited to this very complex, fluid ecosystem. And that just also goes with really consistent and standard monitoring and evaluation processes. I just like to coin this as hyperactivity within the ecosystem. There is a lot of activity around events, workshops, talks, challenges, and it's fantastic. I can tell you from where I stand, the South African ecosystem is extremely active, and there's a lot of things available to our entrepreneurs and innovators. But there's a hyperactivity. Every day, something is happening in the ecosystem around events and talks and challenges. Then from a data point of view, and I think you've heard this, I don't know if you've heard this, but fatigue from our SMME side in having to continuously provide the same data over and over and over. They move from one funder maybe to a mentor, maybe to another funder, and over and over and over. Government and the other role players in the ecosystem is asking them for the same data. So a lot of fatigue, a lot of data duplication sitting within this ecosystem. And then digital maturity. I mean, there are still instances where our entrepreneurs have to fill in a form and fax it to apply for something, versus in other instances, there's a wonderful platform for them to just fill in their application. So you get that sort of disjointedness within the ecosystem between the service providers and the role players as to where each of them are with regards to their digital maturity, and really looking at that from a point of view of your individual entrepreneur innovator. It makes it really difficult for them also to comply. Lack of understanding of demand. I cannot tell you how many conferences I've listened to entrepreneurs speak and say, but where can I find out what government needs? So what is the demand from government for services and products? Where can I find information on markets? Because that's part of my process. So lack of understanding demand and having that sit in one place where the entrepreneurs in South Africa can access that. I looked at a platform from India, actually, Startup India. And they have something that they call an idea box. And there they provide an entire overview of the problems in India as ideas for innovators or entrepreneurs to design products or solutions or start businesses. So understanding that demand. Also, access to publicly funded research and development. And I'll speak a little bit about that later on. How do we access what is in our universities and science councils? This is intellectual property that has been paid for by government, and how can we put that really into the hands of those that can commercialize that and start a business and create jobs? And then from an innovator or researcher point of view, for them, very intelligent people, sitting in the university, brilliant ideas, sometimes it's just to have access to whomever the end user will be so that they can tweak their thoughts, that they can tweak their prototypes, tweak their products, so that it is more market ready to be funded. So if I had to slap sort of one definition of what I believe it really is the biggest challenge that we have currently in the ecosystem, it would be the following: that there's low awareness and recognition of operating as an ecosystem. Many actors involved in this ecosystem are unaware of how their actions, how their contributions of others and themselves, how that really has an impact on the scaling of our SMMEs. And if I had to slap another maybe just hashtag phrase over that, I would say hashtag overwhelming. because it is such an ever-changing, dynamic ecosystem, and there's pockets of information everywhere. So this brings me to an interesting slide. I say hot off the press. I attended a workshop 5 weeks ago that was presented by Andy, and I asked him if I may please share the slide with you today. They're busy with a mapping of the entrepreneurial ecosystem in South Africa. And this slide was their preliminary findings. So this is not their final proposal, but I thought this is very interesting that Andy came in and they said, problem statement, entrepreneurs in South Africa lack a centralized, accessible hub of resources necessary for their growth and success. The ecosystem supporters, and this is public and private, this includes government, lack an integrated view of the activities, actors, and areas of focus of existing intervention to inform existing and future policy, to develop programming and foster effective collaboration. So for me, this was the perfect slide to take us over into what we're doing with the Innovation Bridge portal, because as you can see, their initial proposed solution talks to a user-friendly, filterable dashboard of entrepreneurial resources across multiple ecosystems provinces and a dynamic AI-powered platform which enables continuing updating of data on the ecosystem. So just quickly for a moment, the Innovation Bridge portal started off as an initiative of the Department of Science and Innovation. Initial mandate really was to be able to showcase the technologies and innovations that are coming out of our science councils and our universities, to showcase that on an online platform where it could be accessed internationally and where there could hopefully then be collaboration around commercialization. 2 years or so ago, the Department of Small Business Development joined us, and we were able to now reconfigure and enhance this portal to also accommodate for the entrepreneurs in South Africa. You might be aware that the SMMESA.gov portal was a portal that the department had brought to life during COVID to provide relief to our SMMEs. So basically, whatever was functionality in that portal, we've brought over into the Innovation Bridge portal. And we now sit, at least with the two government partnership around supporting the entrepreneurial ecosystem, entrepreneurial and innovation ecosystem. And I mean, for me, there's such a strong case for having both of them on one platform, because exactly what I mentioned, you do want to bring supply and demand together and ideas around that. So if I want to just give you really a quick high overview of what the aim really is with the Innovation Bridge portal. And just to note, if you missed it, it is actually a portal that you can visit now. It is there, and we are still maturing the platform, but I'll get to that later. So the main aim of the platform is to accelerate the ecosystem journey. And it's very, very important that when you look at what the ecosystem should be doing and how it should be enabling, you should focus on the actual individual that will benefit from that. So what will the innovator, what will the entrepreneur benefit from this? And if we had a portal or platform where our ecosystem could access quality, relevant information at the right time, because they're each on their own journey, they need different information, resources throughout their journey. And we could build a digital repository of this ecosystem and all its activities. It really means that this repository on a daily basis would change, will be updated, and role players coming in and out, etc. And then take that data and apply it to individual user journeys. So if I had to just make it very practical for you, what we envisage is that an SMME in South Africa can register on this portal, that there's some data vetting, and I'll talk about that later on. We just spoke about, Home Affairs, SARS, etc., that we integrate with other systems. You register as an entrepreneur, you tell us, I serve the agricultural industry, my organization is now at startup phase, I'm sitting in Limpopo province, etc., and the more that we know about you, the more that we can then expose you and match you to what type of funding you might qualify for. And all of this really is to save time for the entrepreneur. I cannot imagine an entrepreneur sitting in front of a laptop not even knowing what they might need next in their journey, but then having to Google for that, and then having to go through multiple websites, trying to understand, will they qualify? Is this what they need? How do they apply? Etc., etc. And it takes a lot of time out of their actual business hours that they could spend on their business. So it's about creating sense and direction for our different ecosystem role players to journey through this ecosystem. So how do we do this? You know, our main strategy at this point is to partner as well. So when we do partner, we partner around data, support, specific support provided, as well as digital systems and integration. And this allows us to at least start off with a basic information vetting. You know, as we've been speaking to different role players in the ecosystem, there really is a need for just like a first level basic information vetting, because currently a CIFA would do information vetting, CEDA would do information vetting. And when we talk about information vetting, I'm talking about ID numbers, CIPC registration numbers, etc., etc. Everything that you need to know about an entrepreneur or their organization to be able to provide support to them. This also, so the Innovation Bridge portal currently already, when you do register as an entrepreneur, you get a unique identification number. And what's important to note here is that it's not that we want to duplicate what anyone is doing within the ecosystem. It's rather that you will be sent into the right direction in the ecosystem, but you will come back to the Innovation Bridge portal because you're on a journey, and you will need different support throughout that journey. It really makes it easier for us as partners to see where the gaps are, where we can co-create. It's easier to implement initiatives via this platform. And from an ecosystem intelligence point of view, having all of these partners come in with their data, integrating systems, handing over the baton when it comes to support, there are some issues in the ecosystem that we can also at least get a view of, such as double dipping, reactionary entrepreneurship, where you get an entrepreneur that sees, oh, there's a fund out calling for applications for a startup business in agriculture. Let me quickly start a business in agriculture and apply for the fund. And I get the money, and then, you know, the business might make it, might not make it. It's very reactionary and not really based on demand. And measuring quality, etc. So where are we with this strategy of ours? The Department of Science and Innovation really has been absolutely wonderful in supporting the Innovation Bridge portal. We're assisting the department is really making use of this portal. I mean, they're running all of the innovation campaigns via this portal. We are now building an entire module onto the portal for innovation champions for local economic development, and these are champions that will sit within the municipalities that will access and be able to see data on innovations within their municipalities. We have been also pulled into the G20 project to see how could we, from South Africa's side, display and provide access to the innovations in the different G20 countries, their platforms, etc., as a one-stop place of at least getting entry, or what they call open innovation type platform, and many more things that we're doing with the department. With the Department of Small Business Development, they're busy with a specific forum to try and see if we can standardize the finance application across the ecosystem, if the banks and all the different role players in that field would buy in to one standard application form for an entrepreneur to apply for finance. We're also now bringing in the database of entrepreneurs from the Department of Small Business Development onto the portal soon, and ongoing other initiatives. The World Bank Group is helping us to do a survey of the innovation ecosystem in South Africa, along with Andy. We're also partnering on challenges. We have the CIPC that just spoke about their wonderful BIS portal, and we're actually currently busy with a project to integrate the Innovation Bridge portal with that BIS portal. Finfin, Darlene we have here today, and we really want to see how we can also integrate and share data with that platform that helps entrepreneurs to find funding, and so many other things, so many other partners that we're playing with. Then just quickly from an ease of use or accessibility point of view, what we're trying to do with this platform, and I'm really hoping the DCDT DG is still here, because I really want to speak to someone to get our platform 0 rated. So, that's something that we want to do. If this is going to be a national support platform for innovators and entrepreneurs in South Africa, let's get it 0 rated so there's no data costs associated with that. It's already built mobile friendly. We could look at a more permanent feature on phones in a mobile app format. We do continuous benchmarking, looking at what other countries are doing, even in Africa, around their support platforms. And then working with CEDA specifically and the municipalities, there is an opportunity to also reach those entrepreneurs and innovators in those areas through walk-in support at those municipal district level offices. And I think the last thing is very important, that this is not just a system sitting there. We do have a team, a warm-body team behind the system, a curator that makes sure that the content is really well-written and reliable. So when we started with the Innovation Bridge, I recall this morning, I think it was from this table, a lady said, don't over-design, just start. So really that has been the way that we've been tackling this portal. We started. And we ended up last year really looking at the design and the architecture of this portal, realizing that now we are going to be sitting with personal data, we're going to sit with very important national data. So very quickly, how we planned our system architecture is to have 2 databases, one with sensitive data, non-sensitive data, surrounded by APIs. Dr. Jabu, that was part of a previous panel, his team of cybersecurity experts actually pen attacked our system to make sure that it cannot be accessed. The system is hosted within the CSOR. We really did not want to put it out on the cloud. We wanted to have it local, just to make sure that the data stays and we keep it in South Africa. And then, through this design, we also have now given the Department of Small Business Development access to a data portal where they can have a look at their data, draw reports on their data, play around with the data that they are privy to. We've made sure that the POPI Act is implemented on the portal. So we're really hoping that we've ticked all the boxes and trying to make this a very secure system and making it scalable so that we can now infinitely integrate with other ecosystem role players. And then lastly, for the portal, we developed our own roadmap, and we said, well, obviously we realized that the portal from a digital point of view also needs to mature. So you can see in red there how far we are down this roadmap journey of ours, and we've been able to go to the level of where we now start to digitize business processes, where we can integrate with other systems, where we can start with bidirectional communication via the platform, et cetera, bring AI in and so on. And really want to get to a point where we can start to measure impact. And what's very interesting is the green blocks I took from the DSBD Digital Transformation Plan and how nicely it does align with the roadmap that we're planning. But I think the important thing from a digital inclusion point of view and really supporting the ecosystem and from that point of view is that we see the Innovation Bridge portal as the glue that not only connects the mandates of the governments with the individual enterprise journey, but to really become that mechanism to help the entire ecosystem and its stakeholders mature. Thank you. Thank you, Koni.